what's up guys? Well, I shot this video about 3 times yesterday, and every time I shot it, nothing worked out. It was a sunny day yesterday. The first time I shot it, there was a sun glare. Second time I shot it at nighttime, there was all kind of lights that were floating around. It looked like orbs. Orbs floating around, and you're seeing that in the camera. I assure you that this van's not haunted. It was crazy. So now here I am shooting the video again. So guys, you guys that have been following me for a while, you know how packed down my van was when I was gold mining. I'll go ahead and throw another picture up there. I want to talk in this video, I'm going to talk about a few things about, well, how my 7 months on the road was. That's about how long I was on the road living in the van. And just some other events and some other questions that I get asked the most often. So I'll start out with the van issue. Well, I obviously need more space in here if I'm going to haul all my gold mining equipment around. I don't really want to get a new van because, well, this van's paid for right now, and I'm not really a big fan of pulling the trailer because when I go out there on the road, I don't really want to have anything pulling behind me. I don't want to have to worry about anything behind me. When I leave camp, I don't want to have to leave anything behind. And when I'm driving around in town and wherever I'm going and I'm driving around in the mountains, it's kind of just nice and convenient just to have the van itself and nothing else. I'm not against it. I don't dislike trailers, but I just want to keep it as easy as possible and as simple as possible. So I don't think I'll be looking into getting a trailer. I do have a solution to open up a little bit more space. I think I'm going to go ahead and use that roof rack that I'm going to build. I think though eventually what I'm thinking about doing, and it's probably going to happen, is I'm going to extend to this rack right here. I'm going to cut out some 2x4 lumber and kind of shape it the same way as this. I'm going to run a 2x4 right here. I'm going to do the same thing over there, and then I'm going to get some clamps and I'm going to clamp it up here like this, whether I drill holes or whatever I do. And if you can see this cross member like this, I'm pretty much going to make this same exact rack. I'm going to beef it up, of course, but I'm going to extend it up so there's a rack on top of the rack, if that makes sense. I think I'm going to go ahead and use that rack that I'm going to build on top of the van. I think I'm just going to haul the sluice box up there, the power jet, and just a few other dredge components just to open up space in the van, because I thought about not even taking my dredge back out west. And here's the kicker, guys. California is talking about going legal next year, even though they've been talking about it for 10 years now. I'll believe it when I see it. However, if they do go legal, they're only going to allow 4-inch dredges and smaller. And here's the thing, guys. I built a 5-inch dredge last year, so the dredge I built, I would have to modify again just to use it in California. I would actually have to get a new sluice box. I would have to get a new suction hose. And pretty much half the stuff that I bought, I wouldn't even be able to use. I bought another engine and pump. I wouldn't really need it. I guess I have a backup one now, or I can put together 2 dredges, but why do I need to put together 2 4-inch dredges? I mean, it makes sense to have a 4-inch dredge and a 5-inch dredge, but having 2 4-inch dredges doesn't really make a whole bunch of sense, and especially I can't haul a whole bunch of stuff in this van. But anyways, guys, I think I can set this van up so I can haul my dredging stuff. I can build that rack on top of the van, and it will take up a lot of the space. A lot of the space in the van it will free up as far as the sluice box goes and stuff. And the pontoon raft that I float the dredge on, it breaks down into pieces, and I can actually probably haul that on the roof itself too, or I can haul it in the van. That's not really a big deal. And I can haul that all on the roof moving forward if I build that racking system that I'm talking about. I thought about putting another solar panel up there too, but I don't think I'll do that. Moving forward, I'm going to end up getting the isolator switch, because right now, well, not today because it's cloudy, my battery's not 100% full, but a lot of days my battery is 100% full by 12, I don't know, I mean, mid-afternoon, early afternoon, a lot of times my battery's 100% full, and I could be taking that charge, because once your battery gets charged on the solar system and it's 100% full, the solar system shuts down kind of, and it starts sending a trickle charge. So you're not sending full power to the battery, you're just sending a trickle charge just to keep the battery topped off. Well, there are a lot of times when I could be putting a lot of extra juice into another battery, which would come in handy when I'm doing computer work in here and I'm editing videos and stuff. There were a lot of times where I could plug into my solar system and I would get about an hour and a half of work off of it, and then it would start draining my solar battery. I should take that back probably, because it would last longer than that. There were times when I could work for 3 or 4 hours off the system and run my refrigerator at the same time. But the thing was, if I didn't get back in the sunlight first thing the next morning, by 10 o'clock in the morning my battery would be dead. And if I didn't get a good charge that next day, then I would maybe struggle for I would have days where I would struggle for 2 to 3 days just to get that battery all the way up the top. Now, if the next day came out and it was a bright sunny day, it would be no problem to get the battery charged back the battery charged back up. But I don't want to have to run that battery all the way down if I don't need to. So moving forward, before I go ahead and buy another 50 amp hour battery, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest in an isolator switch. And I think a lot of you guys know what an isolator switch is, but for you, those guys that don't, an isolator switch is a device that hooks up off the alternator or the battery. I think you can wire it up either or. It probably depends on what kind of switch you buy. So what it does is when the van is running, you're driving down the road, or the van is running, sitting there idle and whatever, you could be sending charge to your solar battery and charging it up. But there were days when it was cloudy and stuff where I did run into problems. So moving forward, I'm going to take care of those problems before I get back out on the road. Another thing that I need to do to the van before I head back out, there's like my van squatting in the rear end right now, just a little bit, because there's these bumper stops that I'm pretty sure my van doesn't have it. I know that it doesn't have at least one, because when I was doing work on the van before I headed out west, about a year and a half ago, when I was heading out west about a year and a half ago before I headed out, I was doing some work to the van, and I saw this big old piece of rubber that came off the back rear end axle. I think the back rear end axle, and I couldn't find out where it went. I knew it went back there, and I looked at the bottom of it. It was like, it was just about this size, not skinny, but it was just about this tall right here. And on the bottom there's a spot for a bolt, and the bolt hole was all rusted out, and I couldn't find the other bumper stop. And you know, I set the van back down on the ground, and it didn't really look that bad, but once I started getting weight in it and I was on the road, I started realizing that my van was squatting in the back a lot more than what it should have been. And the reason that is because the van doesn't have any bumper stops in it. So they're like body to frame stops, I think. So I don't think that should be too expensive of a fix. So I'm going to go ahead and I have to get that fixed. And there's some other mechanical issues with the van that needs fixed. I was tightening up the wheel lugs, and I ended up snapping one of the wheel lugs off. When I tightened the lug nuts on there, I had the wrench and I was just tightening it down, and I must have got it over tight. I didn't think I got it that tight, but it snapped off. So and I need to pull off the doghouse here. I'm losing antifreeze. Well, I just put some in it a little while ago, so I need to check it, but I think my thermostat was sticking on me on my last month and a half on the road. And then when I would pull over on side the road, what I would have to do is I would kind of have to burp it. You know, the antifreeze cap that if you take off when it's hot, you know, all that antifreeze will come blowing out at you. Something that you don't want to do. But what I would have to do is I would have to crack it a little bit and get that antifreeze circulating in there. And then as soon as I did that, my engine temperature would go all the way back down to normal. I think that my thermostat is sticking and that I need to replace that. I may just go ahead and replace the whole water pump while I'm there and taking it all apart. But with that being said, though, I can get to the thermostat without having to take a whole bunch of stuff off. But regardless, I need to pull off the doghouse, and I need to inspect the engine when it's running and make sure there's no coolant coming out of the head gaskets. Because if I have coolant coming out of the head gaskets, I really hope that there isn't, because I really do not want to do that head gasket job. It's going to be a little bit more of a difficult job just because I'm going to have to pull off the intake manifold, and pretty much you got to strip a lot of stuff down just to get to the heads, and I don't want to go through that if I don't have to. Right now I owe my credit card, so before I hit the road I have to go ahead and get those paid off. Hopefully this week I find a job and get back to work and making some cash. I'm ready to. And hey, the sooner I get back to work and making money again, the sooner I can get the van going again, the sooner I can start saving up money, and essentially the sooner that I can get back out on the road. All right, guys, that wraps up the video for the day. I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later. But when I went and visited Ken on his dredge, what he was in the type of material that he was in, his whole box was just yellow. You dredge and then you clean up your material in a cleanup sluice box.